Imagine being just a child, no older than 10, and watching the one person you love most in this world get murdered right before your eyes. No time to scream. No time to react. Just pure, blinding rage exploding from somewhere deep inside you. And in that split second of grief and fury, every metal object in the room tears itself off the walls and starts flying through the air like missiles. That child grows up, and when he does, he becomes one of the most terrifying forces the world has ever seen. But here's the twist. The story we're about to tell you today isn't just about him. It's about two men, two friends, two completely different visions for the future of humanity, and the one moment that tears them apart, forever. This is the full story of X-Men, First Class. At the very beginning of the movie, we're taken back to 1944, inside a Nazi concentration camp in German-occupied Poland. The atmosphere is cold, brutal, and suffocating. Nazi soldiers are forcefully separating groups of American prisoners, men from women, parents from children, with zero mercy. Among these prisoners, we're introduced to a young Jewish boy named Eric Lenscher. As soldiers drag him away from his mother, something unbelievable happens. The sheer desperation of that moment, the terror of being separated from the only person he has left, triggers something buried deep inside him. He stretches his hand out toward his mother, and suddenly, the metal gates surrounding them begin to bend. Iron bars twist and contort as if they're made of rubber. Metal objects jerk violently in his direction. It's like the boy has become a living magnet, pulling everything metallic within range. This extraordinary display doesn't go unnoticed. The camp's commanding officer, a man named Sebastian Shaw, watches this happen with wide, fascinated eyes. Instead of fear, Shaw feels excitement. He immediately orders the boy to be brought to his private office. Now here's where the scene gets really dark. Shaw places a small metal coin on the desk and looks young Eric dead in the eyes. He tells him, "Move the coin, and I'll bring your mother back to you." Think about that for a second. A grown man, using a child's love for his mother as a bargaining chip. And poor Eric, he wants to do it. He strains with everything he has, sweat on his brow, fists clenched, eyes locked on that coin. But nothing moves, not even a millimeter. And then, without hesitation, he pulls out a gun and shoots Eric's mother right in front of him. The room explodes. Not with a bomb, with rage. Every piece of metal in that office tears free from its place simultaneously. Helmets fly off soldiers' heads. Weapons rip out of their hands. The walls crack as metal fixtures wrench themselves loose. Eric's scream isn't just emotional, it's destructive. Shaw watches all of this in complete awe, realizing he has just unlocked something monstrous. And from that day forward, Eric Lenscher would never be the same. But Eric isn't the only child we're introduced to at the beginning of the film. In the same year, 1944, we meet a very different boy living a very different life. His name is Charles Xavier. He's young, privileged, growing up in a massive mansion in New York, and unlike Eric, he has no idea what real suffering looks like. But Charles carries his own secret. He's a telepath. A mutant who can read and even influence the thoughts of others. One night, Charles wakes up and wanders downstairs for a glass of water, only to find a strange girl hiding inside his kitchen. She has blue skin, sharp eyes, and she's clearly terrified. Her name is Raven, later known to the world as Mystique. Rather than screaming or calling for help, young Charles does something remarkable. He smiles. He tells her she doesn't have to hide anymore. That night begins one of the most important relationships in the entire X-Men universe. The two of them grow up together, practically brother and sister, bonded by the shared loneliness of being different in a world that doesn't understand them. Jump forward 18 years. It's now 1962, and the Cold War is at its most dangerous. The world is already on edge, and things are about to get a whole lot worse. We're reintroduced to Eric as a fully grown man, and let's just say, childhood trauma did not heal gracefully. His bedroom wall is covered with photographs. Each face pinned up there belongs to someone who played a role in the horrors he experienced at that camp. He's not a soldier. He's not an agent. He's a one-man hunting operation with a very specific list, and he's working through it, methodically, one target at a time. Eric Lenscher has become the most dangerous man alive, and he doesn't even have a team. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, we're introduced to Moira MacTaggart, a sharp and relentless CIA agent who's been tailing a suspicious U.S. colonel. She follows him all the way to a secret meeting, and what she discovers there shocks her to her core. Mutants. Real ones. Working in the shadows alongside a deeply unsettling man named Sebastian Shaw. The very same Shaw from 1944, who, somehow, hasn't aged a single day. Shaw himself is a mutant, and his power is extraordinary. He absorbs energy, punches, explosions, blasts of any kind. Shaw can take it all in and redirect it, making him nearly impossible to harm through conventional means. And he's built a team just as dangerous as himself. There's Emma Frost, a telepath who can also transform her body into diamond hard crystal. There's Azazel, who can vanish and reappear anywhere in an instant. And there's Riptide, who can summon devastating whirlwinds with a gesture. Shaw's plan is as terrifying as the man himself. Using his connections, he manipulates a U.S. colonel into redirecting American missile positions toward Turkey, a move that would bring the United States and Russia dangerously close to open war. When the colonel later tries to demand payment and threatens Shaw with a grenade, Shaw doesn't flinch. He simply takes the grenade, lets it explode in his bare hands, absorbs every ounce of that energy, and then releases it all straight into the colonel's chest. The colonel never sees it coming. Moira, having witnessed all of this, knows she's out of her depth. She needs help. Extraordinary help. So she tracks down the one person she believes can actually do something about Shaw. Charles Xavier. Charles has been living his best life at Oxford, studying genetics and charming everyone around him. But when Moira lays out exactly what Shaw is planning, and what could happen if nobody stops him, Charles knows he can't stand aside. He agrees to help, on one condition. They do this properly, with official government backing, so they can operate in the open. That agreement leads to the creation of Division X, a government-sponsored program that will bring together a team of mutants to counter Shaw's operation. Charles immediately gets to work. Using an incredible device built by a young mutant scientist named Hank McCoy, called Cerebro, Charles amplifies his telepathic reach to a mind-bending scale, suddenly able to detect and locate mutants scattered across the entire world. For the first time in history, the X-Men have a radar, but they still need soldiers. Around this same time, Eric has tracked Shaw's submarine to the open ocean. He dives in alone, grabs hold of the vessel using his magnetic powers, and tries to drag it back single-handedly. But Shaw's crew launches him off the ship and leaves him drowning in the deep water. He almost dies out there. What saves his life? Charles Xavier, sensing Eric's mind through Cerebro, diving into the water, pulling him back to the surface. When Eric wakes up, Charles explains everything. Shaw is out there. He's planning something catastrophic, and Eric has the power to help stop it. Eric isn't interested in teamwork. He tells Charles bluntly, he'll handle Shaw his own way. But there's something about Charles that gets through to him. Maybe it's the genuine warmth. Maybe it's the fact that this is the first person in Eric's life who has ever truly understood him. Whatever the reason, Eric eventually agrees to work alongside Charles. Not for the mission, but because hunting Shaw alone is inefficient. He's playing the long game. Together, Charles and Eric travel across the country recruiting mutants for their growing team. They find Angel Salvador, who has dragonfly wings and can spit fireballs. They find Banshee, whose sonic screams can shatter objects and even allow him to fly. They find Havoc, who can generate powerful plasma waves. And they find Darwin, a mutant who can adapt to any environment instantly. Oh, and they briefly meet a short, gruff Canadian man in a bar who wants absolutely nothing to do with them. Logan, ladies and gentlemen, making his entrance and exit in about 10 seconds flat. Back at Division X, training begins. These young mutants are raw and unpolished. Powerful but completely untested. Charles works patiently with each of them, helping them understand their abilities on a deeper level. But it's the sessions between Charles and Eric that are the most meaningful. Eric's power, the ability to manipulate magnetic fields and control metal, has always been fueled by one thing: rage. His pain is his engine. But Charles challenges that. He tells Eric that power rooted only in anger has a ceiling. That real strength, the kind that has no limits, comes when you combine that fury with something else entirely: love. The memory of who you were before the world broke you. There's a quiet, deeply moving scene where Charles asks Eric to bend a massive satellite dish far in the distance. Eric insists it's too far. He tries from anger alone and can't do it. Then Charles helps him access a deeper memory, a fragment of childhood warmth before the nightmare. And in that emotional space, Eric reaches out, and the satellite dish bends like paper. It's one of the most powerful moments in the entire film, because for just a second, you see Eric Lenscher not as the dangerous man he's become, but as the boy he used to be. Now let's talk about Hank McCoy, because his arc is one of the most tragic in the movie. We're introduced to Hank as the brilliant scientist behind Cerebro. But Hank is also a mutant. His feet are completely different from any humans, shaped more like hands, which give him incredible speed and agility. But Hank hates being different. More than anything in the world, he wants to be normal. So he throws himself into developing a serum, using Mystique's DNA as a genetic foundation that he believes could suppress or even eliminate his mutation entirely, making him look and feel like an ordinary person. When Mystique finds out about it, she confronts him. She tells him she refuses to use it on herself because she's finally learning to be proud of who she is. She tells Hank that if he wants to change himself, that's his choice. But for her, she's done hiding. Hank injects himself anyway, and at first, it works. His feet transform. He looks completely, undeniably human. For one brief, shining moment, he has exactly what he's always wanted. And then the serum backfires spectacularly. His body begins convulsing. The mutation doesn't retreat, it escalates. His limbs grow. His physical strength skyrockets. His entire body becomes covered in dense blue fur. When the transformation finally settles, Hank McCoy is no longer a man who can pass as normal. He is a massive, towering, brilliant blue beast, more powerful than he's ever been, but completely unable to hide what he is ever again. Shaw's master plan is finally revealed, and it is absolutely chilling. He wants to ignite a full-scale nuclear war between the United States and Russia, not because he has a death wish, but because he genuinely believes that after humanity destroys itself, mutants will rise from the ashes and build a new world. A better world. One without humans at all. The Cuban Missile Crisis becomes his perfect opportunity. With the Russian government in his pocket, Shaw maneuvers both superpowers into a direct military standoff. Russian warships cross into contested waters. American warships respond. Both fleets sit facing each other, fingers on triggers, the entire world holding its breath. But before all that reaches its peak, Shaw makes a move that catches Charles and the team off guard. He attacks Division X while Charles and Eric are away. And when he gets there, he does something even more dangerous than throwing punches. He talks. He tells the young mutants that they're superior, that humans will always fear them, hunt them, try to cage them. He tells them that their gifts are wasted in the service of people who would never truly accept them. Some of the recruits stand firm, but Angel Salvador crosses over, choosing Shaw's side. And poor Darwin, in a devastating moment, is killed when Shaw forces an energy attack directly into his body. When Charles and Eric return to find what's left of their team, the mood shifts completely. The training that follows is no longer about discovery. It's about survival. Everything collides at the Cuban coast. The X-Men arrive just in time to intervene in the standoff. A Russian ship is destroyed, strategically, by the team, creating enough confusion to make the American fleet pull back. A global catastrophe is narrowly avoided. But Eric doesn't care about naval strategy right now. He cares about one thing, Shaw. He locates Shaw's submarine using his magnetic senses, rips it clean out of the ocean with his bare hands, and dumps it on the shoreline. What follows is a brutal, chaotic battle between both teams of mutants, and in the middle of all of it, Eric finally finds Shaw. Here's the moment the entire movie has been building toward. Eric has Shaw alone, helpless, and Charles is watching through Shaw's eyes, trying to reach Eric telepathically, begging him not to kill Shaw, telling him that justice belongs to the courts, not their hands. But Eric has already made his decision. He takes Shaw's telepathy-blocking helmet, the one that makes its wearer invisible to psychic attacks, and puts it on his own head. The moment he does, Charles loses all contact with him. He can hear nothing, feel nothing. He can only watch. Slowly, deliberately, Eric takes out that same coin from his childhood, the one Shaw placed on the table and promised would reunite him with his mother, and with absolute focus, he sends it through Shaw's skull. Shaw dies, and with him, Eric buries the last ghost of his childhood. But the story isn't over, because now both the Russian and American governments, having witnessed this entire spectacle of mutant power on their coastlines, decide these beings are too dangerous to be allowed to exist. They launch missiles at everyone, both sides, aiming at the mutants simultaneously. Eric's response: he stops every single missile in midair, and then he turns them all around. Charles tackles him. They struggle on the beach as the missiles hover overhead. Moira, panicking, fires her weapon at Eric, trying to stop him. He deflects the bullets with his powers, but in that chaotic moment, one bullet strikes Charles in the lower spine. Eric catches his friend before he hits the ground. He carefully, painfully removes the bullet, and he looks down at Charles with an expression that is equal parts guilt and grief, because somewhere beneath the rage, he knows. He knows that his choices led to this. Charles tells him it wasn't Moira's fault. He doesn't need to say the rest. Eric already understands. And here is where the two friends' paths, which ran so closely together for the entire film, finally, irrevocably split. Eric believes that mutants and humans cannot coexist, that humanity will always see them as threats, that the only logical answer is for mutants to rise, to protect themselves by becoming the dominant force on the planet. He has seen too much cruelty to believe anything else. Charles believes the opposite with every fiber of his being. That peace is possible, that understanding is possible, that humans and mutants can share this world, if given the chance. Neither of them is entirely wrong. That's what makes their parting so heartbreaking. Eric walks away with a small group of mutants who share his vision, including the recently freed Emma Frost. And as he leaves, he has a new name. Not Eric Lenscher, the scared Jewish boy from the concentration camp. Not the haunted hunter who plastered photographs on his walls. He is now Magneto. Charles, injured and unable to walk, watches him go. And then, in one of the most bittersweet moments of the film, he turns to Moira, the woman who stood by him through all of this, and he kisses her. And then, gently, quietly, he reaches into her mind and erases every memory connected to mutants. Every secret, every mission, everything. Because the world isn't ready. And he can't risk her being a liability, no matter how much it costs him personally. Charles Xavier will go on to build his mansion into a school, Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. A safe place where young mutants can learn, grow, and be themselves without fear. A dream built on the ashes of a friendship lost. And somewhere out there, Magneto is building something too. Something very different. And that is the full story of X-Men. First Class. The tragic beginning of one of the greatest friendships and most iconic rivalries in comic book history. So what do you think about this movie? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing movie stories. See you in the next one.